Welcome to the Retrospect podcast, a show where three guys come together from different walks of life and discuss a topic from their generation's perspective.
Something's different, though.
Yes, something's very
different. You said three guys, and
it actually smells nice in here.
yeah,
It
looks better in here than it usually does too.
Wait a minute.
I'm sorry. I mean,
Right.
our studio is lovely, but it's especially lovely today.
We have another our second time special guest.
Yes, first time it was in the audience, and this time it's by the mic.
I thought he was totally lying to us this whole time about Hottie Doctor, but apparently it's real.
Nope.
Either that or he's paid a lot of money.
Oh, wow.
Wait a
That's
minute.
just mean.
Wait a
You know I
minute.
carry a gun, right?
Whoa.
Most of the time, too.
Not in the studio, please.
Well, I would like to welcome Hottie Doctor to the mic.
Thank you very much.
We're glad you're here. We're
As she's
so
more
glad you're
famously
here.
known.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Well, anyways, my name is Ian, and we have X-Man and Stoney.
Hey, everybody.
Just a little.
And Hottie Doctor.
Yes, of course. Anyways,
he's so proud right now. He's got the high pro glow.
Come on,
right now.
So what are we talking about this week, guys?
Well, you know what? This is kind of one of those weeks where it's going to get lively because I think that the topic is going to lend itself for that, and that's this. There's a lot of different thoughts about the afterlife, about if there is one, what it's like. There's probably stories and experiences that we've all been exposed to and so forth. So the question is there afterlife? And if so, what is it like?
That's a good subject.
Oh, this can go one of many ways.
Well, every religion, or most every religion, has something to do with the afterlife. Mm-hmm. The Christian religion is based on, not reincarnation, but being raised from the dead and something being outside death.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Or it's not a religion.
On the other end of the spectrum, though, then you have people who would say, you dig a hole in the ground.
Yeah,
you pitch the remains in and cover it up, and it's done.
But then why thousands of years is death so important? Even the Egyptians, they put all their possessions in. The Vikings, they put all of their possessions in. Other cultures, your servants committed suicide to die with you, to be there with you in the afterlife.
Absolutely true.
I personally believe in Valhalla, so I have to give out one last fight to actually make it into
such a millennial right now.
Stop it.
You are such a millennial.
The anti-warrior is worried about going to warrior
wait,
heaven.
Who said I'm an anti-warrior?
I kind of want to reach over and tie a bone in his hair.
Hey, is what it is.
You can even go back to previous types of man, like Neanderthal man. We've got multiple burial sites of Neanderthals, which is previous to 25, 35, 40,000 years, and they were all buried with flowers. Yeah. So it's like, why give the deceased flowers unless you're anticipating them to need it, or there's a reason for it?
Yeah.
So it's like the belief in death and what's happening after predates our existence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it also kind of ties into the whole mystery of the universe too. Like the, space is what seems like emptiness and void and forever expanding, and it's like we don't know that, and so I think we try to we hope for something there, and I think the same thing is like we don't know what's beyond life, and so it's like I guess we just hope that, or we kind of, I guess in our simpler minds we're probably just like there's got to be something. It can't just be the end.
Okay, so this is a good jumping on point for something that I wanted to talk about, and that's this. If you know how I talked to you on the when we talked about if there were aliens and stuff like that, and we talked about how the ships were powered and stuff that visit a place, and that's far beyond us. And I brought up the point that there are a lot of people right now who believe that consciousness is what will power, is the only thing that could power those kinds of travels for other life forms and so forth. And so the like-mindedness of people sitting in a field together and inviting these things in, and then the manifesting that it's a level of consciousness and so forth. So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
What if consciousness is like its own thing? It's like apart from the mind, apart from everything else. What if consciousness is its own thing, and these manifestations are actual
consciousness
death experience? No, they're actual death experiences. Yeah. What if those aren't alien forms coming, but they're actually conscious forms coming forward, manifesting themselves as UFOs and other things? Like, what if that is life after death?
Well, and I agree with that. But the consciousness has always been thought of as the soul. Right. That's what's left. That's what actually leaves the body, is your consciousness or your soul, and it goes somewhere else.
Right. But now, like, Christianity is going to hack that and say, no, you're not a disembodied spirit. Your body is going to be raised as well, and so your body and mind don't part. But I will say this, though: if that's true, then life after death might look a whole lot different than what we're even thinking. Like, if consciousness is its own thing, and consciousness is the ability to travel in ways that we've never traveled before, even instead of thinking universally
about dimensionally,
but yes, like the dimensions of heaven and earth, if that can be transcended through consciousness.
I would like to interject. That's a movie he needs to add. Buckaroo Banzai and the Eighth Dimension.
Wait, what?
I thought you were going to say Buck Rogers.
That needs to be a movie that you add to your other podcast.
Right. That sounds like a wild ride.
It's a great movie.
It sounds like a carnival I'd go to, like, down the road.
But wouldn't that be weird? Like, if that's what we find out,
right?
You know,
that it is just some sort of like alternate dimension.
That it's not UFOs; it's actual returning of its actual consciousness resurrected into a different form.
That's crazy.
What about the whole multi-level universe? If we've got 8 or 10 or 16 or 1,000 different universes all stacked upon each other, a few inches apart.
Yeah.
What if what we're thinking of consciousness is it split amongst all these things, and these different experiences are just what the other parts of us are experiencing? Or is it life after death? Is it reincarnation? Is it
I've heard that about, like, deja vu. It's like it's when all your different timelines converge on one spot, and you all have this, like, really weird sensation or whatever. It's like just a weird deja vu sensation or something.
Let me give you an example. Like, there was one time, and I was sitting, and I was talking to my grandfather, and I was happy to see him, but I was also kind of put out with him because I had been looking for him. Okay. You know, and so I'm like, I'm talking to him, I'm sitting there, and he's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm okay. I'm really glad you're here because I've been looking everywhere for you." And so our conversation goes on and on for a while, and then I forget all of the details of it and everything. But it came back around to that whole same thing again. Yeah. And I was like, I'm really glad to see you. And I said, I had been looking for you. So the fact that we got this chance to spend time together is really important to me. And so I'm grateful to see you. And he looked at me and he goes, "I've been here the whole time." And in that instant, I knew that I was talking to my dead grandfather.
Whoa.
My eyes opened and I shot straight up in the bed. And I began to just cry. I mean, I just cried. It was too real to not be real. It was too intellectual of a conversation for it to be dreamed, if you will, or kind of manufactured by my mind, because he said things that I wouldn't have him necessarily say. And so, like, it was just too... And so I, without a doubt in my mind to this day, I will stand by the fact that I had a conversation with my grandfather, and he tried to tell me, like, I've been here the whole time. You can stop looking for me. I'm here.
Dude.
I'm watching over you. I'm with you.
Well, is that part of the whole reincarnation thing? You know, the Indians, not the Native American Indians, but the Indians believe that you come back as a cow. The Buddhists believe that you can come back as something else. If you did your life well, you go up a level. If you did your life bad, you go down a level. And you're going to spend, eternity trying to get it right. Yeah. So do you combine these things and say, is the spirit world something that gets left behind as you're moving from plane or dimension. We kind of brought that up in a past episode about, the phantasma, the ghost.
Yeah.
If it's a pure energy, that you lose energy in transmission or, going from point A to point B. Is that a possibility? Is that some of these feelings that we have and something like that? Is that something being left behind as that person's consciousness or spirit or soul is moving from point A or dimension?
Yeah. I'm just going to own the fact that I come at this, I sit in the perspective of a person of faith. So when I think about the afterlife, I think of it in terms of my Christian background and belief, and that's the way I was raised, and that's the seat that I occupy. What I will say though is what I find the hardest conversations to have because of that belief is just no belief at all. That there's nothing, and I just find that extremely depressing. And I find if that's true, if there's nothing. And then I think about people who do have faith and what the numbers say. And this, pardon me, but I get all geeked out. The numbers say that people who do have faith and stuff, that they fare better in life. They flourish better in healing and that kind of thing. And so because they live from a place of hope. And so it's very hard. And I always feel a little sad when the point of view that's in front of me is there's nothing.
Well, everybody wants to live forever.
Yeah.
That number one, that's why you have children. So
that's why we have miracle cream too.
But isn't the first condition of immortality death?
Oh.
So you can't you can't even understand what living forever is if you don't have death in some perspective. Mm-hmm. So, I want to live forever. How can I do that? You can do that through your actions, through the memories that people have for you, for your children, and
legacy,
then now,
kind of
the legacy,
the impact you leave.
So is that why death seems to be so important to us? We want to leave something. Yeah. How many people, say, don't cry for me when I'm, in the coffin. Let's get together and go have dinner now and talk about it. Don't tell me how sorry you are, because a lot of grief in that situation is more regret than it is anything.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
But what do you say to that person? What do you say to that person that just says, there ain't nothing?
There ain't nothing.
What do you say that?
No. I'm agreeing with you. What do you say?
It's hard.
I believe in something else. Yeah. Then the next question is, has anybody died here?
Yeah, right. That's the thing. Who's got the experience?
I have.
Okay, tell us about that.
4.5 minutes.
Tell about
that. 2 times.
I know a couple of times you've killed me, but
he goes on a more comedic sense.
Wow.
Poor thing. He thought he had to explain that.
I was going to say
our listeners really are that intelligent.
Yeah.
I was going to say it was more in a joking capacity. I always love the people who will fall asleep hard and will snore. And then of course, as they wake up or whatever, and I was like, man, you snore loud. And they're like, no, I don't. And I was like, you weren't there. I was. It's I've had a lot of friends that are like that.
Uh-oh.
Wait. I didn't mean to start anything.
You pressed a button or something.
I'll take it all back. I'm sorry. I'll cut it out.
Nope. Oh, I could say something now. But I love my life. I really don't want to add to that 4.5 minutes.
I feel like this is about to turn into an expose.
I don't want to add to the 4.5 minutes.
But it's like you were saying, just to put to parallel it. It's when I could sit here and debate what is going to happen after we all die, but it's we're all standing here we've never been there.
Well, I can say I can add to that.
Right.
So
go ahead.
I've had 2 experiences that add up to 4.5 minutes. In my past line of work, 2 situations happened that caused me to flatline. And the first time was just under a minute, and there was absolutely nothing. I don't remember anything. I was told afterwards. But the second time that equaled out the rest of the time, I thought something was going on for about 2 weeks.
Whoa.
I thought I was living in some other arena that I could not describe, still can't describe, but it felt like it was about 2.5 weeks. I saw forms, figures, some familiar, not really, just forms.
Did you see the light?
there was light, but it wasn't light like I understand light today. Like somebody has some special lights now in our studio. But we have new mood lighting here now.
Right. Yeah.
I want to go green.
Yeah, right.
Blue.
But it did affect me for a while because it gave me a different perspective. And I'm kind of wondering how much of it is brought into my subconscious, because the first one, I knew Jesus, but I didn't believe in him. And the second time, I knew him a little bit better.
Okay.
So I wonder how much of it was real, how much of it was subconscious in my head going, okay, there's something now than I believe.
Yeah, like your hope.
My hope
for you.
added to it, because it was only a couple of minutes.
Yeah, I want to say something to the people who automatically discount experience too. Right. Screw you. Like, who the hell are you? Right. Like, how can you tell somebody that their experiences weren't what they experienced? So if that's you, shut up. So I just want to say that. So I validate what you just said,
right?
Because that can happen, and it's really hard to understand like why you would have two vastly different experiences like that, but in a very similar kind of context, other than maybe that's part of revelation for you, for your life, and what you're supposed to have. But I think that I think you're right. I think that we don't fully know, and I think we try to talk about it like we do. But I think there's something beautiful in the mystery of it also, and something meaningful and very powerful. And I think that's what draws us, right? I think it's that fact that you can taste it, it's there, you know that something's happening. There's way too much evidence to suggest that it's not there. There are people on our planet gifted in communicating with that world, and I mean, it's certainly not my gift to communicate with the dead, but I really believe that there are people here that do. And so I'm who are we to say that that it's not that it's not there. I think it's kind of crazy.
I'm a numbers person.
Yeah.
And, so far we've looked at this primarily from a Judeo-Christianic type of perspective. But like in this country right now, 25% of Christians believe in reincarnation. 33% of Americans believe in reincarnation. And we take it one step further, there's over 60% of the population believe that they have had a communication from one of their loved ones that has passed on. So that's not the minority. That's the majority.
Right. Yeah.
And when you look at it that way, there's not everyone has made the leap from the 33% to think, okay, well, they're being reborn again, or there is life after life or whatever, but they're still talking to Auntie Sue and Uncle Jack and whoever else they had a close personal relationship with.
Yeah.
Often in dreams, like what you experienced. Other times they'll, feel the bed settle and, they'll smell their grandpa's cigar or something, there's those visceral reactions.
Yeah.
And that's something that's hard to replicate.
Right.
But if the majority are experiencing that, then why is there such pushback on questioning and challenging what everybody thinks is happening in the afterlife?
Honestly, Hottie Doc, I think it's I really believe that that's because people want to be right more than they want to be open-minded. I think more than they want to validate other people, I think that people want to be right about their perspective. So, and I think this gets us screwed up all of the time, as we think that there's only one way to look at it, or one belief, and we know definitively. But how the hell can you know something definitive about something that's never happened to you?
Right.
Well, I'm going to say that I was getting ready to jump in, and I'm glad you kind of took a breath there after our aliens episode.
Yeah.
I was approached by a number of people who said, y'all are crazy. There's not possible.
Get
but
in
then
line.
I had 2 or 3 people walk up to me and say, man, I wish we could have called into the show.
Yeah.
Y'all need to do a live show sometimes, because I'd have told y'all my experiences.
Are we going to be coast to coast?
Hey, that would be great. But, they're like, people have experiences. Why discount it just because you haven't?
Right.
And there's that word. And now we've kind of, in a way, which is kind of what I like about our podcast, is we've kind of connected all of them through conscious level.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe it's, life after death or alien travel or whatever.
Angels and demons,
Yeah, angels and demons. What if they're all just really connected by this conscious level?
Yes.
That all of this is possible now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think I think the longer that the world lives, the more we discover about these kinds of things. But here's what I want to say, because I come from a seat of Judeo-Christianity, I just want to say to that whole crowd, if you're going to discount thousands and thousands and thousands of years of witness, then what about your religion?
Yeah.
Because that's exactly what the Bible is. It's a testimony and an account of a witness of people who saw Jesus Christ be crucified and then resurrected. And so if you want others to be open to the idea of that, why would you turn around and shut off their idea and experience? It doesn't make any sense.
Because people participate in the conversation to talk, not to listen.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, they want you to listen to them,
but
they don't necessarily need to hear what you have to say.
Well, I think it's far more compelling, honestly, to those who aren't Judeo-Christian, to just kind of go, you know what? I don't know. I don't know everything that there is to know. And so I do know that the book that I read says that my ways are not your ways. My ways are higher than yours. Mm-hmm. And so there are some things that I'm just okay to chalk up to great mystery and to be totally happy with saying, we don't know, and I cannot wait to find out the answers. But I have this suspicion that when at the point where I'm going to get the answers to my questions, to all of them, it ain't going to matter anymore to me.
I remember when my pawpaw died. It hit all of us pretty hard because he was a jokester. He was the best dad joke teller on the planet. Mm-hmm. Corny jokes. If you heard one joke, he told it to you 30 or 40 times. But when we would go, I had the city folk on one side and the country folk on the other side of my family, and that was Grandma and Grandpa were the country folk. And when you went to their house on the weekends to visit, Papa would wake you up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and you would have a bowl of Product 19 with about 10 scoops of sugar on it and a cup of coffee with him. And then he'd put us back in bed, and he'd start working in the yard or whatever. And then Grandma would wake up and cook you this huge, big breakfast, and she could never understand why you weren't hungry. But when he passed on, a couple of us just got together and said, we found comfort in the fact that he was going to be having that bowl of Product 19 and a cup of coffee with Jesus.
Right.
That was our comfort level for that. And that helped us to know that there was something for him past what he had here.
Yep.
Mm. And we were able to kind of get through that with that story.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's relevant right now in this conversation, but that sure made me feel good just to say it.
Absolutely.
It anchors what is unknown with what is very familiar, where it's like this in between of like, you have no idea where he's at or what's going on, but you have hope that he's doing okay. And then again, there's like this comfort in knowing that, again, he's just doing his routine. He's living his life. I had very similar stuff with like members of my family. That's like, once they move on, you just hope that, they're in a better place than we're right now, especially with some of my grandparents. They were just pretty up in age, and we're just having a hard time to getting out of the hospital for certain things. And it was just kind of that, I just hope they're not suffering anymore, that whole situation. So,
yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Most of us in here have our own kids or have been around kids quite a bit. And one of the things that most parents will tell you is that kids do really freaky things when they're 2, 3 years old. They say the most off-the-wall, weirdo things out of nowhere. They'll talk about their old dad or their old mom or, before I was in your belly, I did this. Or they'll just come out with information. They'll say words and languages that they could not possibly have heard. When my eldest was a little guy, he would say words in Spanish all the time. We worked entirely in English household. There was no way for him to learn Spanish words.
Interesting.
And and to this day, like he would always make all these Spanish references, and he would like eat a piece of toast into the shape of Texas, and you're like, how does a 18-month-old kid know this kind of stuff?
Yeah.
It was just bizarre. And he was always, had a fondness for Hispanic girls, and he still does, and he's in his 20s now. And it's just like, where does that come from? Mm-hmm. But, it's just like any one of us that have been around kids have heard them say things that just kind of made the hairs on your arm and on the back of your neck stand up. And you're just like, okay, this comes from somewhere else. And then that leads you into the savants and all these, other things that, kids be 4 years old and they're concert pianists. Where does that come from?
Yeah, right.
Where does that come from?
And even like people that shouldn't have any of that ability, especially if they're with, different disabilities and birth, challenges and stuff that they have these amazing, incredible abilities to do things that just blow your mind. What was the dude that won? Was it America's Got Talent? The guy was incredible. I mean, he was blind. He clearly had some kind of mental, disability. But he
was
could
that the singer? The singer,
yes.
Right? Yes.
And he would sit there and play and sing these songs. And I mean, they like fidelity to the music, note for note fidelity, sounded like it and everything. And then, I mean, it just was mind blowing. I couldn't wrap my mind.
I remember him, and it was just amazing because you looked at him, and I remember when it first came out, the first episode, everybody thought he was faking.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a huge uproar that he was faking, and his family was just trying to get rich and famous.
Yeah. No.
And then all of a sudden, it gets proven that he wasn't. That he just had the most amazing talent.
And after he was done, he would like snap right back into like this other person, but when he's on. It was just incredible. But I think you're right, Howdy Doc. I think that there is a real I think there is a real dismissal in our world today of ideas that challenge or that kind of thing, instead of embracing the idea that no one may have it exactly right.
Yeah.
Well, I saw this interesting thing the other day. It was some meme on one of the social medias, and right now it's all about I trust the science and blah, blah, blah. And this big meme said, questioning science is science.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the whole point.
Right.
We need to question it. We need to continue to question it. We need to continue to question our existence and what's out there, and continue to reach for the stars, to continue to study the consciousness. Seems like we've hit this level where we've kind of plateaued off, where we're not doing that anymore. Back in the 40s and 50s, there was so much research into the brain, and we kind of turned it into some crap with the CIA and LSD and sleep deprivation.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we go back to that?
Well, and we should embrace science, and we should not discount people as stupid who challenge who we are. I mean, again, I'm going to be unapologetically Christian here and just say that, I live my life through the lens and the belief that Jesus Christ lived, died, was resurrected, and that we face that same future as long as we believe and have hope in him. And so I believe all of that. But here's the deal, is that I do not think that Jesus would like it if I took other people's input and made them feel like they were stupid about it, or made them feel like what they believe was crazy. I don't like it when someone does that to me, but I think Jesus would invite those people to the party and that they would sit down and have a meal and talk about it.
Those are the people he hung out with.
That's exactly who he hung out with. I'm kind of like, you do realize that, this guy was hanging around probably like the most motley crew you could imagine. And that's why all the religious people were pissed. And so like, I really feel like if you're going to have a conversation about what could be after this, that you have to do that based on experience. You have to listen to people's, stories and collect that information as part of it. Now, if you want to take all of that and feed it into an artificial intelligence and see what the outcomes could be, great for you. I'm not going to geek out like that. It is called faith for a reason, I think. And so, all of that gets above my pay grade. And so, but I will say this is that, I do think there is definitively something that happens after this, and that's just because there's way too much proof that there is.
To talk about consciousness for a second, have you guys ever heard of Ghost in the Shell?
Who?
Ghost in the Shell?
Ghost in the Shell.
That was a movie.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a movie, and it's also like a
Did
TV
you then
show.
in the shell?
I'm going to tell you what it means in a second.
No, but did you say in the shell?
In the shell, yes.
Oh,
yes.
okay.
Yes, in the shell.
So
Ghost in the shell.
what it means is it's basically what in this universe they kind of call your spirit or your soul, or again, they're in more technical terms, your consciousness. But it's basically like far advanced society. We were able to get like robotic like replacements for stuff, and of course like augment your body to do all kinds of crazy stuff, cyber brain, all that kind of nonsense or whatever. And it kind of gets into this territory of like the ship of Theseus, where it's like, you know, like where if you have a ship, Theseus' ship, and of course, if you knock a hole in it, you replace the boards on it. After you replace all the boards on it, is it still the original ship or is it a new ship? But again, like it's the exact same ship, but you've replaced all the planks on it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, technically, we'd have to ask Hottie Doctor this, but your body's not the same as it was a year ago.
Right.
You replace
exactly,
your cells all the time
Yeah.
anyway.
But
so is it
You're
really
wearing
that
different
far
skin. You've got
everything. The Hottie Doctor, give us some numbers,
Yeah,
Doc.
Come on, doctor. Weigh in here.
All right. Well, certain cells in your body, like your oral mucosa, the cells in the lining your mouth and your GI tract, they're going to turn over every 3 days. You're going to have other cells that have a much slower turnover. Those would be like cells in your bone. Those might be on a 6 to 7 year kind of turnover ratio. So literally and figuratively, every 7 years, you're a new person.
Exactly, and that's the point that I'm getting across. Is that you can, if the ship is the same ship, but again, you have replaced functionally every board on the ship. Is it still the same ship, kind of thing? Well, the same thing happens in this movie/show. Is again, if you replace all your body parts with mechanical body parts, and everything is cyberized, again, is it still a person? And what they say, the differentiality of it all is you have a ghost, quote unquote, but you're just a ghost inside of a shell of like some sort of human being of some kind.
It didn't work out too well for the Borg.
Oh, no, of course not. But again, what they were saying was is that you can the ghost of sorts, or like your consciousness, can be taken and put into other cyber brains or whatever you can do. But if you die without being able like to transmit it or whatever, it's like you're dead forever kind of thing. So functionally, your consciousness can be transmitted and you can still have it, but the second it's let go and is gone forever kind of thing. And
I would like to say that appears to be the first shot across the Star Wars brow with a Star Trek reference.
Oh,
so yes, pow! There's the shot across the bow there.
Right. Okay, I gotcha.
this is war.
But again, it just is that we're talking about this kind of consciousness stuff. This what happens after death, and it's like the same kind of thing happened. Or where I start thinking about it, it's like.
Well, technology is counting on that. You
Right,
look at all the people that are, freezing their bodies or freezing their heads
exactly.
with the hopes of being reanimated in the future.
Yeah.
They're hoping on a situation like that. Is
Right.
it likely? Probably not. When you talk about these near-death experiences that people are having, it's not going to the light, but leave your head behind.
Yeah.
Your soul, your essence is moving forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you even hold on to your consciousness? Is it even
what
a
if we
tangible
find
thing?
out that the appendix is actually what held the soul, and we've been cutting them
Oh
out for
shit!
years?
Probably the gallbladder.
Yeah,
no,
that's what.
then I'm screwed.
Oh no!
You're screwed no matter what.
Right. Well, I'll never forget waking up. I'd gone to the hospital. It was about 10:30 at night. I was like, something doesn't feel right. I drove myself. I had on like house slippers. Like seriously, I looked like a hot mess. And I remember going in, and then I remember doubling over in the waiting room. And I remember waking up, and I looked at the dude, and I was like, Victor? It was my neighbor. My neighbor was standing over me in scrubs.
What?
And he's like, yeah, man, I just took your gallbladder out. I was like, what? What's
Where
happening
am I?
here? Like, what is happening?
Wow.
He's like, yeah, dude, it had been dead inside of you for like quite a bit. And you had like some
Jeez.
infection going on. And I was like, oh my God, I've been flying all over the country.
What if there is a physical seat to the soul?
Yeah.
Right.
Because like we like to think of the brain as being the organ of conscious.
Or the heart. The heart is the soul.
All three have been brought up in different cultures
Yeah.
and in different ideologies as where the soul resides.
Mm-hmm.
So is it possible? Does it have merit?
The Chinese mapped out the qi,
Mm-hmm.
through the whole body,
Yeah.
with the energy pathways through your whole body. And they actually believe that they can manipulate that. And I believe to a certain extent that they do.
It's like it's like a physical feng shui.
Yeah. Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Not going to disagree with that, but I mean, what are we really affecting?
Yeah.
If you take and I saw, where did we see that picture the other day where you could see the actual nerves in the body, and we saw, what was it, the sciatic nerve? I never realized this thing was as big as your damn pinky.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't know that. In my head, I'm thinking little bitty nerves that you can't really see and how hard it is to attach. That thing was as big as your pinky.
Dude, that's just because you have a big butt. It's not because it's really.
Okay, I have a question for you today. Which one would you like to be, the pot or the kettle?
Whoa, whoa.
I deserve that. I deserve that, and so I will receive that in the spirit in which it was tossed back at me.
There's so much fire being flung
It's
around.
okay. You know, shade is shade, and I needed
right.
a little, so I deserved it.
I would say something, but I'm going to be.
You know what?
Well,
Please don't. Please don't.
anyways.
I'm begging you.
But yeah, the same sort of thing happens too in that universe where you start thinking about it, where it's like if immortality is the thing we're able to get to at some point, it's like, you know, if you could upload your consciousness of some kind to some sort of computer, it's like, how long would you feasibly want to do that for? Like, that sounds, I don't know, it sounds interesting when you talk about it now, but then like when you think, you know, thousands of years down the line, still being here, it's like, you know, how would, like.
I got a question.
What? What?
So something X-Man said, you know, that our bodies are going to raise up. What about the people that, you know, cremated themselves?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know for me, cremation is my last chance at a smoking hot body.
Nice.
But what about the people that have, you know, done that, you know, burned up, you know?
I've always thought of it in the aspect of like I know it probably means the physical from your body, but I think I've always taken it to mean like your soul is like the image of your body. So it's not just like default soul number one. It's like where it just doesn't have a form of some kind. It's like there is like your soul.
If you look at Revelations and they talk about the body after death when you are raised up and we're all in heaven.
Right.
It's similar to the body that you
It's
have
glorified.
now. It's glorified.
Right.
It's a
but
new
what
body.
if it's, you know, what if it really is just pure energy? What if it's pure energy and it doesn't, it kind of looks like this, but what if it's just pure energy?
That's what I mean. I don't think we can really fathom it. That's why
Yeah.
I'm saying, what if it is whatever the lights are in the sky, or what if it is like seriously, like what if it is the things that people are seeing? And so I think that we have to, like, instead of discounting, like, start connecting the dots a little better, like being smart about this and kind of going, you know what are we looking at? What are we actually seeing? Because to me, that's the proof in the pudding, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you know, that's, I think when you see something like that, you're kind of going, okay, that was weird. We all sat down here. We all thought about it. We all thought, hey, let's invite, you know, consciousness into our presence, and bam, 3 lights show up, you know, like,
Right.
I think you can't really argue with that, you know, like, I think that's the experience of people. But I really think what's an interesting segue here is kind of going, okay, then what exactly is afterlife? Like, so, you know, I think that for so many religions, if you will, that it's very different. Like you said about people being reincarnated, coming back as other things, paying for past wrongs, or paying, like, what actually happens in afterlife. What's the purpose of it? I know for Christians, afterlife is a place where the corruption of sin no longer occupies any of the earth or the heavens, and therefore it's fully restored, and it's you know, all of that gets wiped out, and a new heaven and new earth are created that's free from the effects of sin. But for many other religions, you know, it is, hey, I'm going to come back as a grasshopper. And if I was a crappy person, you know, I'm not going to have wings or a leg, or, you know, like, like whatever happens. Yeah. Karma. Mm-hmm. And so you have a lot of different thoughts on this. So talk to me about, like, how do you feel about that? Like, what do you think you know about the afterlife?
That's one thing I really don't know. I think I believe what I do because, again, of the place that I was raised in, and like the religion I was raised in as well. You know, I'm having a very Christian out view on that sort of stuff. I believe it, but I when I really start to consider it, I think it's because it's a little bit of biases, you know, like, because it was part of my childhood and my adulthood for most of my life. I haven't had a firsthand experience of what death is, or what it like, or any like accounts of my own. But I can say for myself, it's like I've always been, the people that have died in my life that have been really close have all been, family members that are up in age. So again, for me, I've never been like, I've been sad, but it's never been like in the moment sad about death. It's always been, like a hopefulness to it. Like, like I said before, I think they're going to go to a better place. But I think there are times where like I've, had some friends of mine that have died that are very young. And I was like, it's sad in a different way, because it's like that's where it makes me think, like, I really do hope there's something out there that, they're, that kind of stuff. But other than that,
this is probably where my viewpoint differs from you three, because you all come from a much stronger Judeo-Christianic background, and I have a more esoteric background. And so, I've read a lot of Ian Stevenson's books, and, he was a Canadian psychiatrist, actually, from McGill, but he worked for the University of Virginia, and he's got this 2-volume set that is kind of the treatise on reincarnation. And he studied reincarnation in both the United States and India and around the world. And he's got 250 cases that were so heavily documented that, like, the kids knew the street that they were on and how they were murdered, and they were born with the birthmarks on the murder sites of how they were killed, and it was just heavily documented. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you've got an author like Raymond Moody, and he walks you through on how to make a psychomantium in a closet in your house where you can talk to dead people anytime you want. And that was based on like the what the Romans had with the oracle at Delphi and everything else. So it's like we have this long history of different things. No matter what kind of bow you want to put on it, it's the same thing. It's just a different spin.
Yeah. And I think that's the other thing is that, if what you're using the afterlife for is to manipulate people, stop.
Oh, yeah.
Stop doing it. Like, and this was kind of like the way I grew up in Judeo-Christian, and it was really my problem with the whole thing, was it was a very manipulative, very hellfire brimstone kind of approach. And the thing is, I'm going to literally stand here and scare the hell out of you until you, out of fear, come to believe what I believe. And so that is the worst model of evangelism that I've ever could imagine for any religion, much less. But here's the thing: what's stupid about that approach is it's kind of like you're making fire. My experience of burning skin the main thing when you do that. That's not the main thing. If you believe what you believe, the real problem is the separation from God. And so that should trump any physical experience that I have, especially if this physical world ends and I go into an eternal world, if I transition on. So if I believe what I'm saying, then the last thing I should do is try to manipulate you with something like that. And I don't like that. I never have. I think it's a very manipulative way to talk about what actually happened 2,000 years ago with the life of Christ. And if you look at what was modeled, with him, while, there were a lot of visions and dreams and imagery and things like that in the Bible. And so unless you personally have been appointed the vision, or the knower of all visions and everything, I don't think you can really make some of the claims that have been made. Mm-hmm. What I do know is that there seems to be a dominion of good, a dominion of evil. Both of those are experienced both here and in some kind of other dimension or world or plane or whatever you want to call it. And that and what we do here matters because it informs these other places and things. And so I really don't think that Hadi Doctor, that they have to be that far off. I mean, I really don't think that they have to be, like you said, these super contrasted ideas where I think that there are probably right things about all of them, but I also think that's the mystery. I think we should just be okay with some of the mystery.
I would like to jump into that dominion of good for a minute,
Yeah,
and get your perspective on this.
Yeah.
It's going to be a goofy question, but I'm really asking it earnestly and sincerely.
Okay.
Do all dogs go to heaven?
Yes. Dogs? Oh my God.
I'm serious.
I am too. Of course they do.
Look at Ian. He's like, he doesn't know
Would
what
it
to
be
say.
I don't
heaven
know.
without them there? That's probably the real
Say that
question.
again.
Would it be heaven if they weren't there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm so sorry, but yes.
Right.
And I believe that is scriptural.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe that what is bound here on earth is bound there. And I do believe in doggy heaven. And that's why we have the saying, doggy heaven. Oh, he's in doggy heaven. My Jagger.
Come on,
lives
Ian.
there.
I'm waiting on you.
I just don't know. Like I said, I think this is where I haven't done
What do
a lot
you
of.
hope? What do you?
I mean, I would hope
What
so.
do
I
you
would-
want to happen?
I would hope so, but I have a pretty strong opinion, and no one likes to hear it about
That's
about.
what this show
I
is
mean,
about.
I guess you're right.
See who can
It's
we
about-
offend today?
Is about animals and people.
All right.
I do believe
Well,
that.
then
Like
lay
I
it
said,
out there.
with what
Why
you,
can't you speak your piece
I
and your
am.
truth?
Well, let me
Well, do it,
speak.
damn it.
I understand where you're coming from, and after you say it like that, like you said, everything that's bound here on earth is probably bound there in heaven. When you think about it, I mean, like, I'm probably like, you know what? You're probably right. They are probably in heaven, and I have no idea because I've never been there. But for me, I always look through the lens of, I've had a couple dogs growing up, and I love them to death. But I think I've always, like, in my adult life, have realized that I think people put a personality on animals and their pets that I don't think I think that dogs are intelligent and are very smart, but I don't think they have like a consciousness technically. I mean, I could be wrong. Like I said, I have no idea. I've never done my own research, but it's like,
Ladies and gentlemen, you may message him on
yes,
our
you're
Facebook
right.
page.
I had a
And
dog.
please do so. Blow his email up.
I had a dog for over 10 to 12 years that I loved to death. And I think he did have his own little personality, his own little quirks. But do I believe that he had like a soul and he was a being that I don't believe that per se.
I'm gonna have
and so
to push
it's like,
back here, little bro.
and that's what I'm saying. It's like, so again, like I said, I think that again, I could be wrong, but I think it's just that we as humans personify a lot of things, especially animals.
Well, you do the same thing with your kids. I mean,
well,
what are you saying?
Okay, well, no, I think kids are different, obviously.
Oh, tell me how.
Kids
you
are-
don't, you
kids
don't
are
put yourself onto your child?
What do you mean?
You don't imprint you personify things about you onto your children. You have children to replace them in family systems that
Right.
sometimes are
Well, and
functional and dysfunctional.
Right.
So I mean, these children serve a purpose in
But
the
what I'm
system.
saying is that like a child has a certain level of consciousness and intelligence and will grow up and be human beings. Like
my
us.
dog is way the hell
isn't-
smarter than my kid was.
Aren't we talking about something way deeper? We're talking about a possible living thing that has the same passion as you, just doesn't vocalize it like you do, and being able to touch your soul.
Okay, so
they say hold on. They say the best drug for a human being is another human being, but also the best drug for a human being is a puppy.
Yeah.
How many
that-
people
well, yeah.
extend their life by getting a cat or a dog
Yeah.
or something?
And what I'm saying is like, and I'm
Isn't that
I'm not-
consciousness? Isn't that the ability
maybe
to transition something?
And I am open to being wrong about it. And that was what I was saying about it. It's like I don't discredit that, and I'm not saying that I don't believe that like dogs and cats and other pets that have been domesticated, sorry, that they haven't probably had like years and years of like evolving into like codependency with us is what I was saying. Is like, but like what I'm saying is like that I don't think intrinsically they have a consciousness like we do, I guess. And that's where I was getting confused.
You've never seen your dog sleep and dream and be twitching and running in their sleep and barking at things?
My daughter's always like, "What do you think he's dreaming about?"
Yeah.
I'm like,
Right.
chasing the mailman, of course. Like,
right, exactly.
So here's the thing too, and I'm gonna tell you, like, I was screwed from the very beginning because
Right.
both of my grandfathers were Baptist preachers, so I had zero chance of. But I'll tell you this. One of the most beautiful conversations I ever had with my grandfather on my mom's side was about the afterlife. And he was talking about heaven. And I had asked the same question, Ian, about animals being there, where the presence of animals going to be there. And he told me, he's like, son, when you get there, it's going to be much different than it is here, because you have to remember that creation has been completely restored. So the animals no longer fear you.
Right.
When they say that the lion and the lamb lay together, it's because there's no fear. There's no, there's nothing broken within it. There's no death. There's no, and so he's like, the river of life that is referred to in the Bible, he's like, you will go into that river of life and you can pet the fish. You can walk through it. Like you can, so I'm just sitting there like, I'm goosebumps on my arms just thinking about, wow, what would an afterlife of a fully restored creation? Because I'd never thought about it. I'd never thought, oh, wow, so there's no fear. Mm-hmm. Like, so I'm not afraid of anybody. Nobody's afraid of me. It doesn't matter if you're black, white, Hispanic. It doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter if it's dark or light or what outside. It doesn't matter. Like, so I'm sitting there thinking, wow. I think it is such a mind-blowing concept. I really think it's hard to wrap our mind around it.
The other day, Hottie Doctor and I had a conversation about death, and she was surprised. I'm going on almost 60 years old, that, back in the 80s, I had my tombstone already made. It has everything filled out except the end date. But on it,
I feel like we need that Western music.
It says on it, it says, see, I told you a blonde was going to be the death of me. And so it brought up this conversation about cremation and how we wanted to, we're getting married. I mean, I love this woman. I want to spend the rest of my life and hopefully the afterlife together. And I don't mind, being cremated.
That's the nicest thing he's ever said.
Hold on, wait. This may even shock you even more. And she said, well, she's really against kind of cremation, and I hope I'm not giving up her personal information. But I said, yeah, but if you think about it, if you get cremated too, we could both be in the same urn and spend eternity together.
Yeah.
I know,
creepy.
kind of sounds gross.
So
but,
creepy.
Really, I do want to spend all of it with her.
Yeah.
Right. I don't want to lose 1 minute.
Right.
Whatever it is, up to death and past death, I want absolutely I've had to wait for her my whole life. I don't want to lose another second.
Yeah.
Right. It sounded corny, sort of sounded romantic when I said it, but I guess now I'm saying it is kind of cornball. But I want every minute. I want everything for eternity.
And see, so I agree, Stoney. I mean, and the other thing is, and when I think about what I hope the afterlife is, that's my hope, is that I want to go there. I'm a musical dude at heart. I want to hear a chorus of millions and millions of singing, beings. And I want to hear the like heavens roar, with all of that. And I would love to know some people there and be familiar with that.
It'd be great if when you wound up at the gate, they're waiting.
Yeah. Right. So
and the dog too, your little puppy dog.
Yeah.
Just sitting there going, come on.
And you know what? If I can live in the hope of that, way better than there's nothing.
Exactly. and that's for me, I have the hope that there is something.
Yeah, of course.
It's just that whenever I start thinking about some things and then I start getting a little too logical with stuff is when I start getting into that place of like I start overthinking it, I think.
Well,
like I said, and when it comes to the animals and stuff as well, it's like, because once you start getting into like, well, what about monkeys? What level of consciousness do they have? Do they even have a consciousness? It's like that sort of stuff. It's like, are we just animals that are hoping there's an afterlife kind of thing? You know what I'm saying?
I'm going to be there in heaven. If I go a little before you, I'm going to be there in heaven waiting with your little dog. I'm going to come here, boy. I told you. Right. Come here.
Yeah.
Let me pose this question. Take it one step further.
Mm-hmm.
If you show up at the pearly gates or at the end of the light, at the end of the tunnel, whatever it might be, and you don't see your grandma and your grandpa or your mom or your dad or those fuzzy little faces of all the pets that you've lost. What if there is all just strangers there? Would you stay or would you not go?
I mean,
with the same consciousness that I have now, I'd be scared. You know, and so I would be afraid. I would be like, where the hell am I?
I believe if it is like,
it gives me anxiety just thinking about it.
I guess the question you're posing is like, I was the only one to make it to heaven out of my family.
No, nothing's familiar. Yeah, like
that's what I'm saying. It's like, again, it's like none of my family was going to make it to heaven, but I was good enough to make it.
But would you want to stay if you were the only one and all your loved ones aren't there, or would you want to be with them?
If heaven is as amazing as everyone says it is, I would probably stay instead of choosing to go to like an eternal nothingness to be with the people that I love. You know, it's like that's where it gets kind of messy, but that's where I think I'm getting my emotions into something that's like I don't even know.
Honestly, I want to be in a good place. I want to be in a place that's good, and I believe, because of what I've witnessed in the world in terms of balance and beauty and the circle of life and the passing of batons and the taking on of mantles and everything that I've seen, I just want the best of that to be true, because to me, that is a life worth living. Like, for that to be the end result, for there to be the reward that is promised to us, then I believe that is a good thing to live towards. And so that's what I'm hoping. And I really believe that, for me, I really believe that the thing that was so compelling about Judeo-Christianity, because there was a time when I was mad at the church. There was a time when I walked away from it out for 13 years. I didn't go to church.
Right.
And so I came back in because I was in a place in my life where I did need to find hope, where I did need to have light in my life. And I did need to kind of make some peace with the creator as I understood the creator to be. And so I did that because I want it to be true that there is real goodness, that there is goodness, and that goodness does overcome darkness, and that we are living towards something. And I found that in Jesus. There was the reason why Jesus was so different than everything else was because dead God was a really radical thought. I mean, a dead God was a crazy, mind-blowing, like, that is so outrageous that how on earth could, it's not like anything else out there. And so it was so compelling and so accessible for everybody that I just felt like, to me, that is God. That is what God is like, and that is love, and that's what I aspire to, and that's the leadership I want to submit myself to.
And I think for me, what brought me to it was the people he hung out with.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. He hung out with somebody.
They look like us.
Like me.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't have to be perfect. I didn't have to, I've made so many bad decisions in my life.
Yeah.
Even as good as I believe my heart is, I still say and do stupid things.
Right.
I get these looks from Hottie Doctor, that I know if I, keep going, I'm going to, regret it. But I just realized that, who he was hanging out with.
Yeah, the mercy and grace of not having to earn it. Yeah. Because that's a lot of pressure and it's not realistic. And so that's what I appreciated is kind of like, okay, now that's something I can wrap my brain around a little bit and kind of go, cool. I also like the idea of a God that loves us so radically and so much that that God takes God's self out of the best place there is and puts themselves in our shoes and then lives a life of that suffering and so forth, all motivated from love. And so I think that that's the kind of leadership that I want to aspire to. I think that's the kind of God that I want to aspire to and to worship. And so for me, that was it. But I will say this, I'm excited about understanding the answer to all of our questions tonight.
Right.
But just like my grandfather said, heaven is my home, but I'm not homesick.
Right.
Not yet. I'm not ready.
Right.
I'm not ready.
All right. Thank you guys for listening to this episode of the podcast. Thank you so much, Hottie Doctor. Is that your official title now?
I'm just going to call her Hottie Doc. I hope that's not offensive to anybody. I hope
it's not offensive to you. I don't know if it's...
Would you like us to call you something else?
How does one even answer that?
I mean, I guess you're right.
I mean, it is kind of a nice term.
Right.
Like, I wouldn't mind being called Hottie Doc, but I'm not. So
right. Anyway,
nor hot nor doctor.
Exactly. Neither one.
Again, thank you for tagging along and putting up with us. I know we can be a handful sometimes.
I hope you'll come back too, because I like a numbers lady,
right?
Especially with you two.
Yeah. Well,
let's ground this in some damn reality.
Tag team duo. Anyways, if you're looking for us, we have a Linktree/Retrospect pod. You can find us there, or just type in Retrospect on any of the pod catching platforms, and you can probably find us there. Until next week, though, bye-bye.
See ya.
Take care.
Peace.